Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the show. John Henry Soto here with you as always, Sunday night, 7 p.m. Central. It is 8 p.m. in the East Coast. It is May 3rd, 2026. And as always, I'm here with Mr. George Batista. So welcome him in as well. And thank you everybody for tuning in. We were just having a conversation here about musicians and Dave Weckl and some of his early beginnings and how he kind of got his first gig with Simon and Garfunkel in that first reunion tour in the 80s. And one of the George and I, this conversation that we're having today is very interesting because it's gonna kind of go back into those days when things were it was just man, it was just a cool time, cool time. So welcome everybody. As always, this show it's about film, it's about music, it's about art. We also, George is a wellness coach, so we go into health, but it's really the healthy artist. That's really what we try to inspire here. And because remember, being an artist is not only having the chops, you do need to be good, but you also need your mental health, you need your physical health, you need to have endurance, and especially during the social media world that we have right now and all the content and everything that's out there is a million miles a minute, million miles a second. You have to be in a good mental frame of mind in order to really manage your career. So it's very, very important to us, and that's one of the things and one of the reasons why we actually are passionate about doing this show. So we want to thank you for being here. We appreciate you. How are you, George?
I am fantastic. I'm excited always to be here with you, sir, of course.
Cool. Yeah, this is fun because we end up talking a lot about artists on this show, and sometimes we end up talking about artists not even while on the show. We'll
True.
talk about it before we hit the show, and then we hit the show, and then we start talking a lot about that, and then sometimes on the show we don't even talk about it as much as we talk about it behind the scenes. But we're trying to change that up. We're trying to really bring the information to everyone, and that's basically what this show is about. Today we're going to talk about the the late night wars. Is it a war? I don't think it's a war anymore. I think it's just it's like a fading. It's like you have golf. It's like miniature golf now.
Yeah.
Right? Or it's like frisbee golf. I think that part of the changes have not only been the hosts, but it's also been the intense ideologies that have been pushed tremendously within the mainstream media, which spills into all those late night shows. Unfortunately, they're no longer separate entities as they were in the past, and we're going to talk about the king a little bit, the king of late night. I mean, with Johnny Carson, of course, for those of you who don't know. Johnny Carson, we grew up with watching Johnny, but he was the first comedian. I've said this before on the show. He was the first. He was the first time that I understood, like sarcasm, irony, the look.
Right.
That like up to that point, I didn't really understand comedy. Comedy was somebody tripping, falling. I was a kid, but then I remember watching him, and I didn't even know why it was funny, but it was very funny. He'll say something to Doc, and Doc would he would, okay, it's wild, and he would just, there was just something about his delivery that I just knew was genius. But at being a little kid, I didn't know why it was genius. But I remember as I got older and I started getting more being able to comprehend more of what he's actually saying, I just thought, wow, there's nobody like him. There was nobody like him. He was not only was he himself funny, but he also allowed the space for others to be funny.
Right.
And I think that's kind of gone away a little bit. It's sort of like it's now the show of the, it's his show, it's their show. You just happen to be on it, but I'm
Hmm.
got to be the funny one. I still have to have the good, quick lines. And Johnny was never like that.
Right.
You know, like for me, the best, and I don't know for you, your list, but the best for me is Johnny. Next after him is Colbert. I'm just kidding. No,
I was gonna say.
it's Johnny. Right after him is Letterman.
Hmm.
Like, you know, and then those two are so
Yep.
far up ahead. Like, well, Johnny is unreachable.
Yeah, agreed.
Dave is the closest that anybody's ever got is Dave.
Right.
And then I like Conan. I think Conan brought silliness, youthfulness, an intelligent, really good writer. You know, he wrote for SNL,
Yes.
he wrote for The Simpsons. He was just a really funny guy. And I believed him.
Hmm.
That's the thing about these guys. I believed that that's who they were.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a character or anything like that. It was actually, and that's how I kind of rate the top three for me.
I agree. Actually, I that's exactly my ratings as well. I used to watch Johnny as a kid. You know, especially because I had to flip over to Star Trek, but
Yeah,
but
I remember it was 11:30
yeah, and then
then
Star Trek was at 12. But
to the 12.
I love the monologue. But you know what?
That's what I
was it?
watched the most. It was really the monologue,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
see who was on, and if somebody was on that you know that you really wanted to see, you'd stay on and watch it. You know, or flip back and forth from to Star Trek.
Exactly. But one of the things that these guys had, like Johnny Letterman, they were comedians in the true sense.
Yeah.
So the way I looked at the show versus the way the shows are now, it's almost like if you put Johnny Carson or David Letterman just as a comedian, just doing a comedy show, right?
Yeah.
That's really what they were doing when they came out and did their monologue. They were doing a comedy skit, a whole comedy
Right.
skit, and then it was attached to a show.
Correct.
Right. So you could have taken just that snippet of their monologue, and that could have been a comedy show in and of itself.
Correct.
Because in that monologue, they made fun of everything, everyone. It could political, non-political, whatever was in the news, what was not in the news, left, this,
And
but
people just laughed. No
and
matter
people
what
just
side
laughed,
of-
right?
what
And
side of the
again, what
aisle.
you said, like you're the one that kind of taught me, especially with the acting and stuff like that, about delivery. Like I never knew, when I was younger, what made these people so funny.
Right.
Johnny Carson, Letterman, or even just watching TV shows. And I knew that there was a way, again, Kelsey Grammer is brilliant at this, right? A way of delivering a line that makes it that much, that much funnier because of the way you delivered it versus just what you said.
Correct.
Right. And I never understood that concept. And then you and I started talking about it. And I was like, yes, delivery makes a huge difference because you get two people that deliver the same line. You might not get the same reaction. Right.
Right.
It's just
and when you have both elements of a good writing and a great delivery,
right?
That's like you think about like shows like Cheers,
mm-hmm.
right? Well, every single person on that show delivered lines amazingly.
Lightning
right?
in a bottle on that one.
Yeah, but the writing was brilliant.
Yes.
So you had shows like that, Frasier, coming out of that, Taxi early on,
mm-hmm.
The All in the Family. Early on, all those things were it was a time when it mattered that the delivery was on point and that the writing was sharp.
Yes.
Those things always mattered, and when you're doing a show 5 days a week, Johnny Carson, but back when that show started, it was like an hour and a half. When it first started,
That's right.
It was an hour and a half.
That's right.
And that's a long time to be on and have to be on for an hour and a half. But one of the things that was that you really understood was that sometimes the jokes didn't work.
Yeah.
And that made it even funnier because his delivery,
his reaction when a joke didn't work
was another laugh on top of it. So you almost were like waiting for the joke that doesn't work because you're going to get even more gold.
Right.
So I loved that part of it, and we skipped the whole thing that I was going to do on my thing.
That's your fault.
It is my fault. Announcements.
Oh, by the way,
we have some announcements. Actually, I really only have one announcement. I don't know. You have why don't we?
I have one or two announcements here.
Yeah, why don't you do
but
your?
again, they're pretty quick. First of all, a lot of some folks that don't know that you were on my Wellness Talk show,
Yes.
which aired right before this show, and it's up there. So those of you who are fans of the Soto Man, check him out on my Wellness Talk podcast. You can see that on georgebatista.com or my Rumble channel or YouTube and stuff like that. So that's number one. And second thing, again, just for those of you who are fans of my show, Wellness Talk, there is I do have a subscription for those of you who want to check out some really amazing stuff. It's the Wellness Talk private podcast. You can get it on Spotify and Apple as well. So just go to georgebatista.com, click on, join the membership, and you're in. And a lot of amazing stuff, and it's being updated, pretty much weekly. So georgebatista.com, check that out.
Cool. Awesomeness. And, I wanted to say also just on the being on Wellness Talk and stuff, I'm not certified anything. I don't know anything. And I think that's what works.
Certifiable.
I am certifiable, but I think that's what works with me being on there, because I do have questions about stuff. I am in the world, in America, I am healthy. I eat healthy. I want to get even healthier. I want to actually eat better than what I'm doing. But if you go anywhere, I went to, the other day I was at I went to the supermarket and I was behind a lady, and I'm in my car. I got organic chicken. I got this. I got all this stuff. Everything is
snob.
Yeah, complete snob. And then her, and again, God bless her, and I hope she's well, and she's enjoying herself. But it was like Stouffer's cuisines, and
Okay.
these I guess kind of like TV dinners, I guess they call them.
Right.
Had a bunch of those, and she had like chips, and I mean,
Spam.
it was just, yeah. And I was looking at that, and I was thinking to myself, I'm not arrogant about it, you know what I mean? But the only reason I know some of the things that I know is because I watched your show. That's one. And also, you and I have been, we grew up together, so we've been in, studying stuff and making mistakes,
right,
but figuring things out as you go along, and realizing that it's a responsibility. We did a show, when we talked about that on your last Wellness Talk. That was the thing. It was a responsibility. So I'm on there as like you guys. I am you guys basically on the show. I'm going to ask questions that you're probably thinking, because George is in the gig. He's in the business, right? So his mind is working with the stuff that he knows. But then there's people like me that don't know nothing, and we want to ask questions, and I know a little bit about some stuff, but we want to ask. And I think I think that's what makes the show really a lot of fun, is that
it was fun. Absolutely.
Kind of do that. So that's fun. Cool. And what was the other thing you said? Well, I think you said it already.
I already said it.
All right, cool. So all I was going to mention was that I do have a on May 13th, excuse me, on May 13th, I have a writers round event, and we had 4 artists. Unfortunately, one backed out or dropped out or had some prior thing that came up. So we have 3. We have an open space if anybody's interested. And if you're in Nashville and you're a singer-songwriter, whether you play piano, we have a baby grand piano there. We have whatever you need to play. And if you need an amp, if you need we have mics, obviously, and a PA system, and we have a whole thing. If you have tracks and you want us to play tracks and you sing over the tracks, that's fine too. Just message me. You can message me at johnhenrysoto@gmail.com, and just send me a message with links to your work and that you're interested in being on the thing. It's May 13th, and it starts at 6 p.m. So the second thing is no, that was it. I do want to kind of like give a little bit of a shout out to somebody. And this is you know, I drink coffee. I love coffee, and I have someone that actually roasts their own beans, and they do an amazing job. So, they it's sort of a how should I say it? I don't want to sound snobbish. It's gonna
you're past that, my friend. That ship has sailed.
because he's not he's very it's a very very soft launch, if you even want to call it a lunch. They're just it's just actually giving bags of coffee and doing and doing special roasts for people. But the coffee is unbelievable, and it's Brick and Brew. That's the name of that's their name. They made me this that I'm going to show you here.
Nice.
They put my logo and a picture of me. This is the Brazilian roast, obviously, that I just have right now. That I just got a Guatemalan roast, which I think this one, the one that the Brazilian one had, was a little bit of cocoa. It's a little bit of a chocolatey taste, also. Unbelievable. So if anybody is interested, you have to be. There's no way I'm not gonna sound like I'm some full of it. I'm sorry. It's just that it's not like a brick and mortar store. You know what I mean? It's not even an online thing. It is through knowing Brick and Brew and knowing their product and stuff. So
yes, you can have my coffee.
Oh God. Oh, I'm sorry.
By the way, I had go ahead.
Now you can message me if you're interested in trying it. I will put you in contact with him. It has to be through a connection as a client to get a bag. And that's if you're local, if you're in Nashville. If you're not in Nashville, I think you can ship it out, but just let me know, and I'll hook you up with that. But this is it right here. If you like coffee and if you really appreciate coffee, and I'm not talking about Starbucks. And you go, yeah, I love coffee. I go to Starbucks every day. If you go to Starbucks every day, you don't like coffee. I'm sorry to say. All respect to coffee. All respect to Starbucks, I mean. But you guys, they burn their, it's like that. It's just no comparison. I'm sorry. This is like butter, coffee, chocolatey with no sugar, by the way. You just drink it. You want to put a little bit of half and half cream, some organic. It tastes unbelievable. But if you drink it black, it's not bitter. It doesn't burn. It's unbelievable. It's so good that this is why I'm talking about it. And it's the only reason why. And okay. And by the way, I don't get a cut of anything either. I'm not affiliated in any business sense of any sort. Okay, go ahead.
Unbelievable. I tell you. Folks, yeah, I'm sorry.
George is like, but I got a private thing. You guys could come private and join me on my podcast. And I talk sensual about health. I'm sensual.
That's exactly how I talk.
Yeah, you get a completely different George on his private.
That's right. It's my private OnlyFans podcast.
Oh man. Okay.
This show has gone way off the rails. Good.
These rails are boring. So let's just go off the rails. All right. So those were the announcements. Did you have another thing that you were going to say?
No, it's good.
All right. So we did start talking about this already. We're going to talk about the late night wars. Over the last decade, late night television has gone through a steady financial and cultural decline. What used to be a highly profitable mass audience format built on large broadcast ratings and national advertisers has seen its viewership shrink dramatically as audiences move to streaming, YouTube clips, podcasts, and short-form social media. Major network shows have reportedly lost millions of viewers compared to their peak years, while advertising revenue for the entire late-night category has nearly been cut in half in less than a decade. The economic model that once supported big band budgets, writing staff, right? Because remember, Johnny had the big band,
mm-hmm.
So it had to support that, big band budgets, a whole writing staff that they had, celebrity guests simply doesn't generate the same return in a fragmented media environment.
Wow.
Another social media, and we talked about this. I think we talked about this recently, or I was having a conversation. I think we did talk about this. You know, no, I was actually having a conversation with somebody. Celebrities, are not when we were able to see celebrities when we were growing up. The only place you can actually see a celebrity was either in the film that you're going to watch in the theater. If you happen to get opening night tickets where the actual stars they walk the red carpet and you got to see them, right? That was another opportunity. Late night on Johnny Carson, that's where you got to see these people. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. And by some coincidence, you're walking down the street, you see them on a film set, and you just happen to be there. It was just by chance. So there was this mystique about celebrity. There was this higher value that people just had based on the fact that you just did not see them as often. In today's world, I can go on my phone and I just saw Al Pacino. By the way, I've seen Al Pacino twice in real life. Both times I almost fainted because I'm a huge fan. But I saw him live in real life, and he looks exactly like you would think. He was just freaking awesome. And but I just saw him right now celebrate his 84th birthday with a big cake, and he was dancing. He's like, ooh, no, but he was like dancing and stuff. And I was like, but this was a private party that he had with his wife, who's like 28 years old or something. Right. They say he has a new kid, and he's and all his friends. Would I ever be invited to Al Pacino's party, his 84th birthday? No, but I saw it. It was online. So there's this idea that maybe they're not as big. Not only the fact that now we have to really value the art, right? Because back then it was not only the art, it was the celebrity.
Yes.
Right? It came attached to it. Now it seems like it's reverting back to like the art. You got to be good. You have to know. And then the celebrity part of it, you can manage on your social media and you can manage, whatever you want to do. But there was just this other way of exposure to celebrities. Oh, and magazines was another one. You get a magazine and there may be articles there. Back in the days, you get a poster. You get a big poster of somebody, of a famous person like Rocky back in the day and all this stuff, and you had that on your wall. Those days are gone, and I think that has a lot to do with the decline of the late night shows.
It does. I agree. It's funny that we were just talking about the Dave Weckl interview. Dave Weckl was a great drummer, by the way.
Return to Forever.
Yeah, he's he talked about he actually mentioned that a little bit. He goes, in those days when we were talking about the 70s, 80s, whatever, he goes, the only way you were able to see drummers is if you went to go see them.
Right.
There was no YouTube, you didn't, he goes, now that, you have YouTube, you could watch any drummer past, present, you see clips of Buddy Rich from 1970, whatever. Back then you actually had to pay a ticket to go see them. And if you were lucky enough to get a ticket to see whatever your favorite drummer
was. You and I did.
Right. No, how many times did we do that?
Before social media, we'd go out and see
Absolutely.
Dave Weckl.
But he talks about it. He said there was an appreciation for actually doing the work to go see them and then being all excited, and that would inspire you to to do these things. But you're right. Going back to the whole late night thing is back then there was the appreciation of that. There was even again for the work that Johnny Carson and Letterman and these folks did. You appreciated it. It was their shows were events. Okay, their shows were there were people that waited, including myself. Waited. Oh, I want to see what Johnny's talking about today. I want to see what Letterman's talking, or who he's having on today. I want to see, or I just want to watch his monologue, which cracked me. There was so many. What was it? Carson averaged what? 15 to 19 million people.
I mean,
I think his last week, he averaged 19 million.
That's
okay.
Nuts.
Now these guys now don't get past 3 million.
No. Actually, it's not even. Yeah, it's nowhere. Some of them are 1.3.
Yeah, was Jimmy Kimmel? Because I looked it up. Jimmy Kimmel's 2.5.
Okay.
Fallon was 1.3. Meyers was 1. Colbert was averaging 2
3 people.
points, right, almost 3. Okay. That's where they are. You're talking about million. You're talking about like 1 to 2 to 3 million, which is, I mean, just in New York alone, there's like 18 million people.
That's so crazy. And, but you start thinking about Colbert, you just said something interesting. His numbers were pretty high, higher than the others.
Yeah.
Why is he the one that's out?
Interesting, right?
Right? If his numbers are higher than everybody else's, then why is he the one getting kicked out or losing his gig? You know what I mean? So, I mean, I think there's also this sense of there's something more tangible,
right,
in today's world that we're looking for again.
Yeah.
The social media thing gave celebrity to someone in Ohio that would have never been on the Tonight Show or anywhere on TV, right. But they were able, because of these little boxes and these social media platforms, suddenly they had a following,
right?
And so it made celebrity almost attainable for everyone.
Right.
You'll see people like, I mean, people will think like, I only have like, well, yeah, I don't, I had somebody say that, I don't have a lot of followers on Instagram. I only have like 200 people. Well, think about what somebody like that is saying. Imagine if 200 people showed up in your house.
Show up at your house and sit there and watch what you did or listen to what you said.
Yeah, I mean, 200 people is a lot of people in comparison. Of course, we're comparing because that's the disease of America is comparing yourself to someone, right?
Of course.
So you're comparing yourself to somebody that has a millions of followers. But still, you have your followers. Those are the people that are interested in what you're doing. They're engaging. They want to engage. And so the idea of celebrity has gone away. This is why you get really good actors and good stars like The Rock, for instance, have a great film, a great performance, and it doesn't do well in the box office. Right. Same thing with Scarlett Johansson, right? She's great. I mean, she's great in everything she does, but the numbers aren't there when she's on her own. Of course, you put them in Marvel and you have the Marvel. So right now it's IPs that are the celebrity. IPs are what bringing in the dollars, and they're trying to figure out, well, what's another IP that we can actually exploit, and squeeze more out of. Can we do another Spider-Man? Can we do another Superman? Can we do another Batman? Can we do another whatever? And what are we going to do with this one? Well, this one's going to be in 3D, this one's going to be like this. So, whatever the case may be. So that part of it is just something that I don't think will come back the way it was. That's just what I think.
Well, no, it's true. And if you think about like the demographic that we're talking about, that back then, again, back in the Carson days and those, right? What was it? 18 to 34, around those, the younger demographic. They used
got older. They grew up with him though too.
Correct.
That was another thing.
But they used to pull that in, right?
Yeah.
Because remember, no matter what, the demographic, they're always once these people start to get 34, 44, 50 years old, then they start to retarget those younger people, right? Correct. Because really at the end of the day, they want the younger audience. If they had their choice, that younger audience is really what the advertisers want. Correct. The problem is now that younger audience is not there.
Right.
Okay. The only ones that we're watching now recently were the older folks who grew up with Carson and those ways, because they remember that, right? Their younger audience, the people like my daughter's age, who never watched a late night show, maybe Saturday Night Live, and that was it, right? They didn't know about Johnny Carson or anything like. They didn't grow up with that, and they're not watching these. So those advertisers are disappearing because they're realizing that demographic is no longer there. Why? Because they're on their phone.
Right. There's a lot of other options for them. There's more entertainment.
Yeah.
There's more distractions.
Yeah.
But I think also that what's really destroyed it is that Johnny was just Johnny. There was not Johnny on the left or Johnny on the right.
Correct.
There was no left or right. There was just Johnny making jokes about whoever was running the show. So if it was Reagan, if it was Kennedy, Carter, Reagan, Bush, Clinton, I think that he retired like at the end of that, at the beginning of the Clinton administration. I think there was no attention to it that was in a way that tried to sway you. It was just making the joke.
Agreed.
And there was no personal. I mean, I'll give you an example. I showed a clip the other day. It was when Ronald Reagan was shot in the 80s, right? And I don't know how much we can say. Are we on YouTube? Yeah. So when there was that incident, there's certain words that YouTube flags. You can't say certain things. So when he was, when somebody pointed a thing at him and a thing came out of a thing and it hit him. And he went,
Dart.
Yeah, dart. The Oscars were coming up. Johnny Carson was hosting the Oscars. So they delayed they delayed it. And then Johnny came on, and the first thing he said, well, I want to make sure that he was okay. And just, I'm happy to know that he's actually doing well and that he wants to actually watch the episode. And he insisted that we do the show. Everybody applauded, whatever side, whether you voted for the guy or not, applauded. And that was it. And the show went on. And that was it. The show went on. I can't watch these shows anymore because they just take these platforms and they make them their pulpit. And it's just not really, it's like, it's not a soapbox. It is an entertainment show. This is something that I had to learn myself because I fell into the trap of falling that, of going, in the directions and getting into the mucky muck. And I realized, wait a minute, God, you know what? I don't do that.
Right.
I'm not a professional politician. I don't know anything about what's going on. I don't know about that. I'm an entertainer. I just entertain. I do this. I make my movies. I play music. I got my agency. That's all I know how to do. I don't know how to do anything else. And so why should anybody take my advice on that? Same reason I'm not taking anybody else's knucklehead advice just because they're leaning one way. Like, what do you know about it? You played a drug addict on a movie the other day. Like, you know what I mean? You were, you know what I mean? Like, why am I listening to you when you play characters for a living? So that was part of like a different era where it was kinder in a very funny, creative way where there was more respect for humanity.
Correct. Well, first of all, going back for a second, when I was talking about demographic, right? Yes, these guys have, gone, there's a specific way, but you have to remember that they're doing that to whatever remaining audience they have. Okay. So again, going back to the demographic, okay, the younger audience is not really seeing that because they're not watching that. They're seeing that now. They're seeing that, but they're seeing that on social media, meaning that but not only clips. I'm talking about just the divide that social media has, right? So they're seeing enough of that stuff on social media. The folks that are watching these shows, which is again the small demographic that's watching these shows, are the ones that are getting pulled into that side of things, right? That's the first thing. Second thing is that somewhere along the line, right after Carson, Leno, those guys, and they kind of disappeared, these guys they fell into this trap of they got owned basically. Like Carson was pretty much like
the king.
You do what you want, right? He had the autonomy. Letterman had the autonomy. They could do and say as long as it is within those guidelines, the FCC guidelines, right? But they could pretty much do and say whatever they want and be funny. Where these guys came in, no, these guys have to do what they are told.
Correct.
And they fall into that trap. So now they are owned.
Correct.
Okay. So even if they don't necessarily agree with what they're saying, they have to say it because they want to keep that job. And that's what I think separates the Carsons and the Lenos to these guys that are on now.
Yeah. Yeah. At the same time, the content, I'm going to just read a little bit here. The content has changed in noticeable ways. See, that's the thing. it's noticeable.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I think the numbers are low because if they were to spend the money on writers and good content that was just funny, just funny, or entertaining or eye-opening or something like that, that would be a much better thing. But many of today's late night hosts like Jimmy Kimmel, Colbert, Seth Meyers, Jimmy Fallon, and others spend a large portion of their monologues reacting to political headlines and breaking news cycles. Instead of primarily being joke-driven variety shows, they often function like a comedic editorial program, blending satire with commentary on current events. And that to me is where
but that's all of media.
It's the Daily Show,
right?
The Daily Show had a purpose. That's what it did,
right?
Now it's like everything is the Daily Show.
Yeah, but again, going back, that's all of media because it's not just late night, right? It's the news. Yeah. News became, okay, it's no longer news. Now it's what my opinion of that news is.
Correct.
And I'm going to tell you what my opinion of that news is. And it's going to be this specific side. And I'm going to bash that side or whatever the case may be. Whereas when you and I used to grow up and you had the Dan Rathers and all these guys, it was news.
Yeah, I remember 60 Minutes when Mike Wallace would be sitting there with a CEO of a company, and the guy's like sweating because he goes, "What? Didn't you know that the product caused cancer?" Did you know? Well, at the time, we were told by our, and he was sweating and stuff, and we were watching it like, this dude does not want to be there. But it was like there was accountability behind these companies. That was one. Yep. They weren't protected so heavily, and the news guys were allowed to do the news. Ted Koppel, Dan Rather. Dan Rather's still around and still doing, but Dan Rather now interviews like celebrities and stuff.
Right.
What's the other guy? Dan Rather, Ted Koppel. There's another guy that I can't remember now, but all these guys were really, Walter Cronkite being like probably the first real guy that was on news that people watched because it was like he was just giving you the news.
Yeah.
That was kind of the thing. It was like just the news. That was like slogans that people would use, just the news.
Just the news. Yep.
Today, this happened. Not that it happened and then it's their fault.
Right. It just happened.
It just happened. This happened today, and this happened today, and this happened today. And that was the news,
Yep.
So that has changed. Now, critics argue this shift has blurred the line between comedy and news analysis, with some hosts increasingly resembling opinion journalists who filter daily politics through a comedic lens rather than entertainers focused on pure humor and escapism. That's another thing. Let me just finish this one sentence and I'll talk about escapism. This evolution has created a perception that the shows are less about variety entertainment and more about nightly commentary on the news. Escapism. This is what entertainment is supposed to do, not throw you right back into like what you've been reading about in the news and it's all over the place and social media is covering it. And now here it is, you're getting ready for bed, you're turning on the one of your favorite shows, and there is the same thing. Somebody trying to be funny. That's another thing. The writing is horrendous. It's not even funny. It's just really it's because it's not done with the goal of being funny. It's done with the goal of digging to whatever side they're going against. When you're writing that way, it's sort of like what Rick Rubin was talking about, why Hollywood can't really make great films anymore. It's because they're not right. The people that used to make films were people that loved making movies. People loved making movies to such a degree that they put all their heart and soul into making these films. So those are the people that actually made films. Today it's businesses and it's commerce. So it's not art anymore. It's commerce. It's selling. It's like, okay, well, we've done these studies and a comedy that has this guy and a guy who this shade of gray and this person that's green and this person that's black and white and blue and green, all those shades together. the numbers show that this will do well, and it tanks 1 for 1. Now, the initial hit is they'll show you some numbers that say the initial hit is high because if you do have a variety of people in a film, you have an Asian, you got a black, you got a white, you got a Latino, you got all these different shades. People are more likely to go see something where it shows people that look like them,
right?
But it's not. Overall, it's been tanking, and the numbers show that, and that's why people have been pulling back on this whole thing with doing that by force,
right?
Because that is an enforced thing. That's what's happening with these late night shows. They're forcing it. This is why the jokes aren't funny. The audience that's there got tickets to the show. First of all, those tickets are all free. You just get on you have to sign in, and then you get on a list. I did it because I went on. I saw David Letterman. Letterman was. I got to go see an episode of that, and it was great. But I had literally I put my my name on a thing, send it in. 8 months. 8 months later, I got an email saying, "Congratulations, you got 2 tickets today." I was like, "Oh shit!" Excuse my language. I said, "Oh darn, crap, oh jeepers." And we went and we had a great time. It was awesome. We had a fantastic time. But, so the audience that's there, they're laughing. There are also big signs that say laugh and applause. There's also guys on the side that go like this
right
to you
right
to get
yes
they're like,
yep yeah, you see, because I went to what show did I go to? Was it Conan? No, it wasn't. It might have been Conan. I think it was Conan that I went to. It was one of those shows. It might have been Conan that I went to where you see all that. The things on the.
And Conan is one of the funny ones.
Yeah, he was. Yes.
So that perception has. Oh, actually, you know what? Why don't we run a thing? All right.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Yes. We're going to take a quick break. We'll play a quick ad here from Proton Mail. Great, amazing email service. So we will be right back.
Oh, you want me to hit it?
Yeah. Oh, you can hit it. Sorry.
I don't know where it is. Oh,
I got it. If you want.
Okay.
If you're looking for an easy-to-use alternative to big tech services and their surveillance business models, check out Proton Mail. Most popular email providers scan the content of your emails and use your email address to create a detailed profile on you and profit from your data, but not Proton Mail. Proton Mail believes your data belongs to you. Proton Mail's end-to-end encryption and zero-access encryption ensure only you can see your emails. Not even Proton can view the content of your emails and attachments. Proton Mail is protected by multiple layers of security and trusted by journalists, security experts, and millions of people around the world. I use Proton Mail to conduct all my business online. Check out Proton Mail today at protonmail.georgebatista.com. Again, that's protonmail.georgebatista.com. If you value your privacy, check out Proton Mail today.
Cool.
Ooh, yeah, baby.
Thank you very much. So that perception has also contributed to a broader debate about tone and purpose. Supporters of modern late night argue that satire has always reflected current events, especially in politically charged areas. But detractors feel the balance has tilted too far towards ideology and commentary, with fewer sketches, absurd bits, or lighthearted celebrity-driven comedy that once defined the genre. Even industry observers have noted that late night's traditional middle ground audience has fractured, with viewers increasingly choosing content that aligns with their political identity or personal taste on digital platforms rather than a shared national broadcast experience. So that's what people who watch that are that.
Yeah.
They like that.
Right.
You can see the numbers, how low they are, because that is a minority, even though you may think it's a majority because the MSN, the MSM world will make you think that, that it actually is uh, the majority, which it really isn't. And I think the numbers don't lie. The
Right.
numbers don't lie. When things swing way too far in either direction, by the way, we're not talking. We know that the media right now swings only in one direction heavily, but when we're talking about either direction, it doesn't do well.
Right. You know what has ruined, when you think about it, like just as an overall, what has ruined everything, in my opinion? It
Mayonnaise,
is, yes,
spam.
mayonnaise. Spam is the worst. No, the one thing that has ruined everything is analytics. And I'll tell you why. Think about what analytics is, right? Analytics is it's really a mathematical computation, right? That and it's data that really informs your decision at the end, okay? Mm-hmm. Analytics is in everything, including film, music, sports, health, everything. It's in everything. Okay. And it changes the reason why you're doing that in the first place. Right. And because now like you said, the end goal is different. You're no longer doing it because you love it and because it's for the benefit of the receiver. You are doing it because it fits a mathematical computation, right? Yeah. Whether it's a computation that fits a certain demographic, or it's a computation that fits just a certain outcome that you think, most people do or watch better on this end, or do better on this end than this end. So therefore, we have to go this way. Okay, right. It's all analytics. Even matter of fact, analytics has ruined social media because social media relies on an analytical algorithm that changes depending on where the trends and where the things are going, right? And it swings to this specific way. So now when you become popular, all of a sudden your stuff is down because that has changed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Analytics have to be, that's one of the things about it, that you have to manage it to a degree, in a not emotionally.
But that's the problem.
That not emotionally. You have to manage it. Yeah, things do change. I'll give you an example is different trending sounds. Somebody will use a trending sound, and suddenly, because a lot of people are using that trending sound, it gets lifted, right? It gets a little bit more traction.
Right.
Well, if you don't know what that trending sound is, you don't get as much traction. So if you went back and read the analytics and kind of got the numbers down and you studied it, because that's what you do. Let's just say you're in social media and that's what you have to do to see where things are going. It can be helpful. But now when you're talking about using it in ways that you feel that people are going to swing this way, because I think the numbers here are showing that people at this age, at this time, this is what they watch at this exact time here. And that's an emotional, even though you may think it's the numbers, it's still an emotional thing. Right. It's still emotional. So I think that's part of the reason why it's just not working when it comes to these late night shows. Obviously, look, they have all the money in the world. Don't you think they would invest all that money into getting their numbers to like 10,000, 10 million, all those shows, so they can get 10 million, 12 million every night and watch the show? Why haven't they? Because they're not really using a model that's successful. They're not using not only the content, but they're not using ideologies that have any statistics behind them that have made them successful. Right. They have nothing to measure it to. It just seems like an emotional thing. Yeah, let's keep doing this, thinking that that's going to work. Obviously, it hasn't, but they have all the money in the world. Why wouldn't they make that successful? You know what I mean? Like somebody like Joe Rogan, which we talk about here a million times, but his show doesn't lean anywhere. I mean, people will say, oh, no, he's all to the right. No, he's not.
No, he's not.
He's not at all. He's got everybody on there. He's invited everybody on, whatever side you're on. And yeah, he'll battle you, but it's not battling against your ideology. He's battling you against what he thinks is a rational decision or a rational thought or something that makes sense to him. Why do people watch 11? Why, well, last I checked was like 11 to 12 million downloads per episode. That's taking all those late night guys and going over them triple times. It's so pathetic, so why are people watching that? You know why? Because nobody has to watch it with the idea that they're going to be swung in one direction.
Exactly.
And there's going to be something flung in their face that they're against. Maybe they'll watch it, but there'll be a definite back and forth. There'll be two ideas, two expressions. There'll be something that people can actually engage with. And by the way, it's not an entertainment show of that type. It's not a comedy show. They don't do sketches. They don't have musical guests. It's just him talking, right? And why is that so popular? Dick Cavett, who's one of my favorite back in the day, right? Why was Dick Cavett so good? Because Dick Cavett asked good questions. He was kind of quiet. He was a really good writer, very smart man. Mm-hmm. And he had the most amazing guests that you could ever imagine. I mean, he's sitting with Jimi Hendrix, John Lennon, Groucho Marx. I mean, the legends of legends. And he had long conversations with them. Orson Welles, which was a great one. And George Harrison, which was an awkward one. But he had all these great interviews. And they were just conversations. Nobody swung anywhere. Nobody talked about anything. Nobody said, look what's happening right now. The country is in a shambles. Nobody was talking that way because everybody knew that there was something going on, but this is not the place for it. This was that's my only argument, is that the late night shows are not for that. Like our show, for you and I talking right here, we do that.
Right.
We do that because that's what we do. We're on Rumble, we're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube. We're on platforms where you have conversations that may be a little bit like that. I'm not out here dancing. I'm not out here telling scripted jokes. I don't have a writer. We're just right here. We're just kind of like talking. So that's the difference between those shows. It's like, don't tell us that it's an entertainment show. Tell us that it's just basically the Daily Show now on all the networks.
Well, that's when like if you look at Joe Rogan, right? Podcasting, for example, Joe Rogan kind of is the Johnny Carson of podcasting, right? 100%, because he's been doing it not only for long, but again, here's where you made the perfect the example is that Joe Rogan has been doing it the same way since 2009, and he'll go whatever direction he feels is the right direction to go. And he talks, like you said, he talks to everybody. Okay. Right. And what are these people outside of Joe Rogan in media? Because he blows away all media, right? Yeah. What are those people saying? We've got to find a Joe Rogan. But again, think of the small thinking. Right. Why? Because they have to find a Joe Rogan that they feel that is for them.
Correct.
Okay.
It's not really a Joe Rogan.
Which is correct. Exactly.
It's just Stephen Colbert.
And this is the small thinking, because they have to polarize, they have to separate, they have to do this whole thing where Joe Rogan's like, I don't really care what you think of me. I'm going to talk to this one. I'm going to talk to that one. Right. And he, so at the end of the day, when the script is written, they're going to look back at Joe Rogan and say, he did his thing. He didn't care. Yeah. And that's why he was successful.
They'll never find one.
No.
They'll never find one. The reason they'll never find one is because the reason Joe Rogan is successful is because he doesn't have a side.
Right. Correct. Exactly.
Now, he says things that one particular side does not like.
Right.
And it's that side that's really against him the most.
Right.
It's not the other side. Why? Because he said things on both sides.
Right. But it's his personal feeling. He doesn't, right. Like, in other words, if you look at the Colberts and you look at these folks, okay, they're controlled and they have to say certain things certain ways because they're controlled for that, right? You're not going to say anything on the other side of things because that's what is paying your bills. Whereas Joe Rogan says, no, I could say it this way or this way, because I own the thing.
Whatever I want.
I can say whatever I want because I own the thing, right? I don't have to worry about who's paying my bills because I'm making, all this money.
He
I can say
owns it
whatever I want.
all.
Right.
He owns it all.
That's the
Stephen
thing.
Colbert doesn't own anything except his
Correct.
salary
Exactly.
that
Right.
he gets. So, you know, David, you have to look at also like Johnny Carson owned the show as well.
There you
He
go.
was a big part of the Tonight Show. He was making money that today is still big money.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was making money like $30 million a year that he was making on his own.
Right.
This is not, and that's nobody's making that on their own of these guys tonight. Maybe out of the not even. I mean, I don't even know where. I don't know who's making that now. Per year. Letterman made that much. But like right now, for instance, who do you think would be a good host? Now you have to take into account that we have our own thoughts of what we think is right, or we're rational people, and then who do you think would fit the description or the closest? Anybody that out there today, comedian, actor, whatever, that can be the closest to a Johnny Carson, Letterman kind of and Conan, those the three greats.
I don't know.
Exactly. Because there isn't anybody. No, I mean, look, there's probably some comedians that you can probably pluck out. I personally like Nate Bargatze. I think he's a clean comic. You have to be clean to be on these channels.
Yeah.
He's funny. Right. He writes his own material. He can get really good writers also as well. He could host. He already hosted the Grammys or the Emmys or the Emmys. Mm-hmm. He hosted the Emmy. He won an Emmy as well. Or was it the Emmys or the Grammys? He hosted one of the big ones. And I think my vote would be for him to be the host of the Tonight Show. That would be my vote. I can't think of anyone that would relate so much to people in America of a guy who grew up in the South, who still lives in the same house, has kids, been married a long, long time, doesn't consider himself anything special, did the grind. I mean, you can look at footage of him as a almost really, really young kid out there just doing it, been doing it for 20 years, and he's got the right age where he's not young, and he's not old. He's like 43 or 44, something like that. So I think that he would be my vote.
Okay. I mean, I'm not as familiar with him as you are, so I would have to see more of him. But from what you tell me, I could see.
I've been watching him for years and years and years. I watched when he had the Nate Land podcast. I watched I think almost every episode of that. And then now he's got a new movie coming out called The Breadwinner, which is a very family. He made it because he wants. Back in the days, remember, you can take your whole family to go see these Parent Trap and all these movies and stuff. Yeah. They were just funny films that the family enjoyed, and it could be silly. It could be the dumb dad, and it could be the parent, it could be that kind of a silliness, Vacation, right? National Lampoon stuff, but so he's got that film coming out, I think at the end of May. And, so he's, for me, would be a guy that I would, if anybody said, who would you think? I would say he's the guy. He hosted Saturday Night Live twice in 1 year, which is really unheard of when you really think about it.
Sure.
He's had some hilarious clips on scenes on there, nothing vulgar. And one of the things that he said when he went on SNL was nothing political.
Right.
And nothing over sexualized.
There you go.
And I thought, what better thing to bring to late night, because now you got to be funny.
Yep.
Right. You got no choice. You can now, fart jokes aren't going to work, and political jokes aren't going to work. Sexual, bringing a hot chick out there and and just having them and talking, and everything is a sexual innuendo and stuff like that. That ain't gonna work. What are you gonna do now? What are you going to do now? Nothing. You're going to bomb. Okay. Looking forward, the future of late night television is uncertain, but not necessarily non-existent. The traditional model, fixed time slots, expensive productions, and broad national audiences is clearly under pressure. However, the brand of late night itself is already evolving into something more digital and fragmented. Viral clips, podcast style interviews, and niche. I don't know how people say niche. Yeah, some people say niche, some people say niche. Streaming audiences. It may no longer be the cultural centerpiece it once was, but it could survive as a hybrid format that lives more online than on broadcast TV. In the same sense, late night isn't disappearing. It's being reshaped into something closer to a content ecosystem than a single nightly show. And that's what I think is evolving right now. Will we have the linear television? Probably for a few more years. I know that there's a couple of major things happening right now in that world that are going to shift that landscape, which are going to make it where it'll be linear, but your own linear, if that makes sense. You will pick your linear,
right,
and you will pick your thing, and it's going to be a little bit slightly different. As we saw, for those of you who don't follow that, I follow what's happening in Hollywood and stuff, but Netflix just made a bid for a CBS, one of their big lots. As we all know, Paramount and just purchased Warner Brothers, major thing, because Netflix was about to, and then they came in at the last minute with a higher bid. Netflix had to back out. Wars in that area. Why? Because whoever controls all of media controls the narrative of the planet. Right. And True. That's really where the battle is. Don't think for a minute that they're battling to entertain you. They're battling because one side, and I'm not going to say which side, but one side wants to make you think one way. The other side makes you want to think another way. One side may have more think for yourself. One side have no, think like we do, or else we will cancel you. Those are the battles. That is what's happening. If you think I'm just conspiracy guy, you have not read anything and you don't know anything about what you're talking about. I mean, you got to go to the insider.com, go to the dailies.com, go to all these things that I read, and the articles that are written there are people from the inside talking. They're not paid a lot of money to write these articles. This is a very small publication. It's free. You know what I mean? It's free. So they're being paid even by the system that's trying to get the word out on what's currently happening. Some of them are on social media. They're just putting out content because they're devastated about what the war is happening and what really is happening behind the scenes. SAG having to fight right now just for their likeness. You now, when you sign a contract, you can lose your likeness. You can sign over your likeness. So meaning if I sign George and George is in a movie, I take George's face, his voice and everything. I put it into a database. I create another George, and the next movie that comes out is this George. He doesn't get any more money. I just have his likeness because he signed the contract. You don't think this is happening? It's already happening. It's already happening. This is why the battle is happening right now. So very, very important to stay on the cutting edge of what's happening. I shouldn't say cutting edge. That's nonsense. Stay on what's happening. Stay current. Read as much as you can. Question everything. Question both sides. It's really important to do that because you cannot believe what's actually happening. Be industrious in that too. That's very important. Be industrious. Know that it's your career, it's your life, it's your business, it's your art. If you're an artist, why wouldn't you want to get up in the morning and be like, okay, what am I working on today? Who do I have to contact? Who has my money? As Grant Cardone says, right? Somebody's got my money out there. Who's got my money? Right. So you should be industrious. And here it says, this is number 16, precept number 16 from The Way to Happiness, a common sense guide to better living. Number 16 is called Be Industrious. Work is not always pleasant, but few are unhappier than those who lead a purposeless, idle, and bored existence. Children gloom to their mother when they have nothing to do. The low-mindedness of the unemployed when they are on relief or on the dole. The dole means actually like unemployment in Europe. That's what they call it, the dole.
Right.
This is legendary. The retired man with nothing further to accomplish in life perish from inactivity as shown by statistics. Even the tourists, lured by a travel agency call to leisure, give a tour conductor a bad time if he has nothing for them to do. Sorrow itself can be eased by simply getting busy at something. This is a major, major thing. Is all this stuff that George and I are talking about today is because we're researching, we're talking, we're doing something, we're being industrious in that area, right? Getting busy at something. Sorrow itself can be eased by simply getting busy at something. Morale is boosted to high heights by accomplishment. In fact, it can be demonstrated that production is the basis of morale. People who are not industrious dump the workload on those around them. They tend to be a burden. They tend to burden one. It is hard to get along with idle people. That's true. Aside from depressing one, they also can be a bit dangerous. A workable answer is to persuade such to decide on some activity and get them busy with it. The more lasting benefit will be found to arise from work that leads to actual production. The way to happiness is the high road when it includes industriousness and leads to tangible production. And that's from The Way to Happiness there.
Wow.
I think it's important for us to be this way as artists, to really know what we want,
right?
What we want, and I think it's important. So,
agreed.
All right, friends, want to thank you all for tuning in. We love you, as we say every week. We appreciate it. Anybody that comes in, if you're watching this now live, if you watch it in 100 years, in some weird digital on some other planet, because this went out there. Hello, I am not AI. And we want to thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. We love you. George, as always, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And we will see you all next week, next Sunday night, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But we will also see you on Wellness Talk, right? Which comes
right before this show.
So you're gonna get an hour of these two faces. So, but it's gonna be a lot more good. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We love you. Take care. See you soon. Have a wonderful week. God bless you. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And as always, peace.